Hi, I thought I'd put together a quick video of how I changed out the leather seats in my car. This is a 2011 E90 BMW, and I got the leather seats from lseat.com. So it would be a super easy job. Okay, moderately easy job. Well, okay, medium difficulty job to just change the leather seat covers. L-Seat does all the hard work of making it perfect custom fit. But I have seat heaters in my car. I have no idea what it'd be like if you had cooling option, but if you have the seat warmers and you want to keep that, that adds a lot of extra hours to this job. So just be aware, I'm going to go through all the steps of tearing it down, pulling out the old one, and trying to preserve that seat warmer, and then stitching it into the new one. Not fully stitching, but just little spot stitching. Be warned, you're going to need to get a few things ahead of time for this job. You're going to need hog rings and some hog ring pliers, which I got from Amazon, and just normal tools that you probably have around the house. On top of that, be warned that when you disconnect your seat, it will set off an alarm that you've disturbed the airbag. So if you don't have a code reader that can reset that, you might need to take it to a mechanic and ask them to reset it for you. I have no idea what that typically costs. I personally have this code reader, and it's pretty good, but I think you could probably get away with doing it with some lower cost ones. Anyway, I think that's about it, so we'll get started. These are the tools you're going to need, unless I'm forgetting something here. The main one is you'll need a T50 to pull out the seats, and then I believe you'll need this T30. I'll see when I get there, but that is for removing some of the plastic things inside the seat. 10 millimeter normal trim prying kind of tools. You'll need a seam ripper, because yes, there's quite a bit of seams in your way that you'll have to delicately work out. Your wife's very nice fabric scissors. Guys, ask permission before using these. First step is removing these two back bolts. And you can use a drill if you want. That's what I'm going to do, but just beware that you'll probably rub the plastic here and it might leave a mark. This is where you'll find those fries that you dropped. And all right, so I'm going to show you under here. I need to remove this little headrest airbag or connection, and also remove you get the light. Also remove this whole plug here. We'll get to that in a second when we use the pick tools. And I will move this forward to show you that there's also the seat belt is bolted down right there. So it also uses the same Torx head. You just got to pry off that plastic panel. It's a little tough, but it does come off, and so far I haven't broken it. So that was the trick. I came from behind and pried on the back side of it, and then it pops out. And that just pulls out like that, and you let it dangle. And then at this point, you just move the seat back close to the middle setting, and I'm going to disconnect those connectors I showed you. I popped the little piece out of the bracket holding it, just so I have a little better grip on it. Oh, okay. So when it was pulled out, I was able to just pull the two apart. Pull that out, and that releases the plug. And it just looks like that. All right. So now at that point, everything is released from the seat, and I can just lift it out of here. But you got to be super careful, because otherwise you'll scratch up your whole interior with these real nasty metal corners. So yeah, be sure to lift right and try not to bang your door on the way out. All right, so the first thing to remove is down here, there's two little plastic snaps that hold this in place. They're easy to break, and I did break one on my passenger seat, so I had to order it. It's pretty cheap. But pull those out, and then this whole back thing slides down. Once that's off, then you can remove these sliders, I think they're called, and then you remove the headrest, and then you can start working around. Also remove all this plastic right here, disconnect the attachments. Basically, you just want to get everything removed. This plastic needs to come off. That's using a Torx head, and it is not a T30 like I thought it was, so it must be a T25. So after you remove all that, then it lets you get in here and start peeling away the seat.
Yeah, so you tell me you're posting on YouTube last night.
So here's what the clip looks like. It's just a, and I'm just using a trim tool that I put some tape on to try to protect the plastic. Okay, those are out. This should slide down like that. Panel comes off. That's all it is. Here's what the back of the chair looks like. This is that clip I was talking about for the headrest. I pull it out and see if it just comes apart like the other ones. Ah, nice and easy. All right, next step is pulling this headrest off. Now, one of the videos I watched online, the guy said, all you do is just grab really hard and just yank up. And I did that, and it busted this clip off right here. So, no offense to that guy, but I recommend you don't do it that way, because I had to buy that, this whole piece here, and it was about 40 bucks. So what I do, or what I learned to do, is gently pull off this cap here. Once that's up, then you can see how the little spring works, and you can pull the spring out of the way, and then it will slide off nice and easy. This one, you can just do that. And since we had removed that clip, this came out of here. This came off nice, nothing got broken. Now, these things here have to come off so that the leather can come off. And the trick for that is just grab a normal screwdriver. And I don't know if you'll be able to see down in here. So what I'm doing is I'm putting this screwdriver down here and I'm feeling for the little tab. And it will hopefully pry up. All right, finally came out. So what I was doing while it was in there was just screwdriver was coming down until I could get to this tab, and I pushed, and while pushing on it, I'm kind of prying up and eventually comes out. So that's the tab right there. I'm gonna now work on this bottom panel here. It was kind of the most nerve-wracking part when I did the other one. And I'm just looking underneath here for everywhere I can see a tab. Of course, a bunch of them want to re-snap. All right, try to make this easier on myself. Oh yeah, and everything's super gooey underneath. There was a coin, I guess. So if there's a tab here, tab back here, and it really makes you rethink whether you're doing it the right way. And who knows, maybe I'm not. I'm just doing what I saw another guy do in some videos. A little bit of success there. The other guy just went for it and ripped it all off and he was pretty confident. He obviously had done this a few times. He works for like an upholstery shop, but I am super nervous doing this. All right. So the clip I couldn't get to was right here, and I had to get to it with the pick tool from the top side, or kind of from the side. But anyway, clip here, 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 here. Here was a hidden one I couldn't really see, but thankfully it relented. There's this separate box for the switches that could be separated, but I'm going to leave it there. And then I'm just going to pull off that plug there. Pull out this plug. Ouch. Next, we got to get this extra bracket off here because it's also blocking access to this. Oops. Didn't mean to get so aggressive with that. There's this piece of leather here that just gets held on by a little clip. And it just pops off. And you'll need to keep that little piece of plastic for the next seat. The next seat will come with this little strap, and you'll just kind of make your own hole and put it in there. Let's see, maybe that is my T30. I know I had one. There it is, yep. This guy, little plastic clip here. I try to keep it intact just because why find another zip tie to put in later? You can reuse the other one. Okay, now this will not come off unless you disconnect it from that power seat. There we go. Just took a little force. That comes out like that. And you have to pull both those out just so you can route the cord through this hole here and get this piece finally off. Oh, there's the penny. Ah, it's a T20. This just comes off like that. And you can try to break it by dropping it. Since I'm going to start on the top half of the seat first, I'm just going to sit it like that and just work my way around to all these pieces that are hooked on. And if I can't get it, I'll just get my pick tool or a screwdriver in here. No doubt gouge my fingers in the process, but you can kind of feel where the plastic piece is hooked on. Now, the reason I'm doing this, these seats look fine probably on camera, but what happened is I got this car from an abandoned seizure auction, and they had left the windows down when this car was seized. And not knowing what a mistake that would be, you know, I fixed everything else on the car. It's running great, but the leather had got rained on and dried, and it shrunk way down. So it's like hard as a drum. And yeah, there's no way to fix that. I tried every product I could find that would supposedly loosen up leather or soften it. But nope, if you've ever had some boots or anything that have gotten completely soaked, and if they dry quickly, or just if they get completely soaked, it kind of ruins it forever. So yeah, that's what happened. And these seats are rock hard, not very comfortable. And the ones from L Seat are super nice. So each one of these clips just slides off a lip. Okay. All right, last thing is got to separate these. They're in a little track. Okay. All right. There you have it. So these, if you're wondering what these tubes are, they're related to the lumbar support. They inflate with air. and that's what this control module is for. So next thing we have to do is remove the airbag. So this if it's the passenger seat, the airbag will be over here. It's the driver's seat. So there's these 2 bolts here. Make sure you can see them. Here and here. That's what the 10 millimeters for. Got to do that to remove the airbag, and we'll have to disconnect it from underneath as well. So yeah, there's rust on this bolt, and that's again because someone left the windows down when this car was in the impound. I'm guessing the people who got pulled over and maybe arrested, who were driving it that night, or maybe who knows what the story is, but basically the car was abandoned, and either they were arrested or they left it somewhere and just never came back for it. But it got all rained on or snowed on here in Colorado, and so, you know, amazingly, this car cleaned up pretty well. But yeah, when I take apart stuff like this and I run into rust in kind of a spot like that, you think, how did rust get in there? And that's because it was rained on. All right, so this is the airbag component, and to get the rest of it out, I gotta come at it from the bottom. There's seat heating controls right here, and there's an airbag cable going to it. And I'm just trying to remember which is which. In the end, you kind of end up having to remove everything, so I don't know why I'm, you know, taking it slow and methodical. That's the one I'm gonna want, because I think that's German for airbag or something. Okay, and then, you know, these are color coded, so you can't really put them back in the wrong spot. I have the luxury of a video of this, so I can always look back. But mine goes brown first, then small black, and then a bigger black connector. Oh yeah, and one goes into here too. And it's kind of tricky to remove it. Like I find if I pull this thing out of the harness, or if I pull the harness out of the metal bracket, like that, then you can disconnect these other things. So what we're ultimately going to do is, here's the plug, but these are modules inside the plug or inside the harness, and so you can relieve that clip and then pull it out. I am going to have to cut that zip tie. By the time you're done with this job, you get comfortable with cutting zip ties and cutting metal rings. Oh yeah, I didn't mention that at the beginning, but you're gonna need a set of hog rings and some hog ring pliers. I'll add an edit to the video and put that at the beginning. But if you start this without those in hand, you can't finish the job. So this is what I meant, is I relieved that tab, and this module is sliding out. Just gonna make sure you can see that. So this slides out. See, they all slide out in chunks like that. And I don't plan to take them all out. They're shaped in like a Tetris way that they can only go back one way. So I'll start that back, but this was the main one I needed to relieve. And that one goes to the little headrest airbag. Also pull that out. All right, so I think that's probably most of the stuff that we're gonna run into. And it's maybe a little intimidating if you're gonna get these wires back the way they were, but not essential that it's perfectly routed. You know, there's these clips all over the place. And so just put them back best you can. As long as something's not binding when you reinstall the seat, it'll be fine. Pay attention to how this flap lays here, because it'll matter when we install the one from L seat. It'll look a little different, but they still provide the same flap for the same reason. There's the airbag now taken out. And I gotta, oh, there's another clip here. Not be able to use my fingers on that. That one looks just like this. And it goes right into the metal here in this little hole. Just slide this off like that. Get out of my way. Because you can see the wires. Here's one wire. The other one comes down right next to it. Here, see those two wires? And they route down to the bottom. Last time I did this, I left it kind of like routed like this. And it was fine. It wasn't in my way. So I'm gonna try to do the same thing this time. Just let it dangle. This little clip, again, on the L seat will be there, and it just clips onto this little piece of wireframe. That's part of this airbag flap. Cool. So that's released. That's released. That's released. We're ready. What did I forget? There's a wire here, comes in at the back of the fabric, and it comes right to there. So I'm just gonna cut that zip tie. I really didn't want to have to go and buy an aftermarket heating element. And that's what made this job so much harder, is that I'm trying to reuse the one I had before. And it did work on my passenger seat. It's just, man, like if you know more than I do about this, maybe it makes sense just to buy an aftermarket one, and maybe it can integrate with the built-in dash controls, but I wasn't sure. So I wanted to reuse the BMW one. This one does need to come out. All right, that's out. Anything else is gonna prevent me from pulling this out? They looped it around this bottom bar. I'll show you here. You see that bar? It was looped around. There we go. It was looped through this bar here, and I don't know if that's necessary, but I'll try to do the same when I put it back. All right, it's free. This is the seat warmer cord, and you'd think you could just like peel this off and pull it out, but nope, not so fast. It's all of this is attached using wires and hog rings. So what you need to do is get your wire snips down there, start clipping every one of those hog wires, or what do they call the right thing? Hog ring. And you want to be careful because this foam tears pretty darn easy. Like, see, it's already started to tear there. And just by touching it, I felt it tear a little bit more on me. So yeah, just something you gotta be careful. I'm gonna work from the bottom up because it's harder to peel this off of the fabric, or peel this off the foam. And I'm not worried about the leather, of course, I'm just worried about the foam. And since everything is held by these rigid wires and hog rings, if you're just too aggressive, you'll damage your foam. All right, so another tool I forgot to mention was these long pliers. I'm sure you can get by without them, but it sure made the job easy for me. I got mine at Harbor Freight. Okay, so I cut it, pulled out the hog ring, tried to grab the little bit that cut off as well, because I don't want to have that bouncing around in the foam, causing me problems later on. Do both sides. now we're entering the tedious phase of the job, and this is like a good time for a time lapse. So I will stop talking. All right, pause here for a second and say, after I released these hog rings up here, I run into the first crossbar, I'll say, right there. And that has 3 hog rings going horizontal, or yeah, going across. So if I start yanking too quick, then I'll tear that foam. So I've decided to stop here, get this crossbar, and then keep working down the height of the foam. And if you're like me, you're trying to do this yourself because you want to save money and not pay somebody else for a bunch of needless things. So everything you break along the way just kind of undoes your bragging rights when this is done. Oh, and by the time you're done with this, well, I can't speak for you, but I understand why upholstery people charge thousands of dollars to do this stuff. It is not easy. It is super tedious, time consuming, and you can make a bunch of mistakes that would be costly. All right, I think that was the last one. Still some bits in there I'll need to clean out, but now foam comes out. You can see some of the spots that either I tore or they were already kind of a little bit broken down. If all this bar comes out, then it will not have that kind of tight car seat feeling, because this bar is what anchors this seam down. So anyway, now that that's out, I'm going to feed the heating element wire through it. Okay, so here's where the real fun begins. This is the heating element, and it is 100% integrated into this seat. So in order to take out the heating element, which is here, 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 and these 2 side bolsters, you have to rip a number of these seams, which is tedious, but it's a little bit easier to rip these ones in the middle. Once you get it started, then you can do it from this side, and because it's leather, you can kind of go zit, and it goes sort of quick. It's still tedious, but anyway. And then rather than ripping all these seams around the side here, I found that it's best to just use your wife's fabric scissors and cut very carefully around the outside here. But I say very carefully because sorry, I'm pointing in the wrong spot. Let's turn this around inside out so I can show you a little better. All right, so here, I didn't mean to say this seam here, I meant to say this one here. So this is like 3 stitches, it's super difficult to work with. So you can cut next to it here, because you're not going to be sewing this into the new one. I'll show you on the new L seat why that is. But so you have to rip these seams here, but then you can cut along here. I mean, it's possible that maybe you could cut here and then cut here, but there's these little wires all throughout here, and you really have to be careful where they are, because I accidentally cut a few of them, and it makes it a nightmare because you got to try to solder stuff back. And some of these, like on the bottom piece, you can't solder them back. They're made of some weird fiber, which I couldn't figure out, that was like resistant to solder. I'm sure someone who's watching this knows why that is, but there were parts I couldn't repair on the bottom seat of my passenger, so like the side bolsters I ended up having to cut out. So anyway, this is the tedious part of the job. You pull these metal supports out like that, All right, so I got the 2 cross beams, cross bars. All right, that makes it a lot more like limp without those bars, so it's workable. All right, so here comes the fun part. I'm gonna cut along here and cut along here. As soon as I can, I'm gonna get out a marker and mark where the wires are. I'll try to do that now. Oh yeah, and this is 2 layers. Like there's a layer of fabric on here that's not even the heating element. And then the heating element underneath that is another layer of fabric. So I made a few cuts and now you can see what I'm talking about. Like this is a foam pad or I don't know, wool or some fabric. And this is the actual heating element right here. So you see on the back side here, I don't know if those wires show up on the camera. Sort of. So those are the wires I really don't want to hit. I got really close right here. And thankfully I didn't hit it. Okay, cool. I missed the wire again. That's good. Cool, you can see the wires inside there and how they kind of split off. One pair goes this way and one pair goes this way. Okay, I'm just gonna get out the seam ripper and start working on this little spot right here just to get them separate because I can't just cut right through here easily. And so, you know, this is kind of the way this goes. You just pull, rip. When we go to put it in the new seat, you know, I might not need as much of these flaps. So we'll see. In fact, I'm not going to need this at all. This will go away because the new L seat ones have this already sewn in. And this is really the only layer that I need. Okay. So now that that's free, you can see down in there, that's what the actual seat heater element looks like. It's, I don't know enough about it, but it's some sort of wire mesh with fiber sewn in. So it's super tolerant to abuse, I'll say. Like they sewed all these seams straight through it, all the way to the other side of the seat. Actually, I'm gonna cut even up here because I wanna be able to loop, have these go through the new seat and kind of help it to not slowly fall down over time. I don't know if I'm articulating that well, so I'll explain it more as I get there. You can see right where the mesh kind of is. So that's what I want to definitely not cut into. I want to make my cut here. And any Boy Scouts out there will probably cringe at me cutting towards my fingers, but I'm having trouble getting this first incision made. I want to have like this kind of lineup right here, and I'm gonna have to rip the seam to make it a clean cut. Otherwise, I don't know, it'll get messy. And after you remove enough of these, you start to realize that the seams on the other side are coming undone, and that kind of makes it a little easier. And cut there. There we go. You know, you can keep pulling and it makes some progress, which is cool. But what you can also do is flip this over and try to get like a nice straight run, because the leather makes it really nice. See how you can see it coming through there that I've already ripped. Then if I get lucky, I can just put it and usually I can get like a nice run pulling the seam out, but not always. So there we go. Oh, see, satisfying. Oh, so nice. Okay, so that's one, and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't seem like you got through when that happens, but you really did. See how that just, this is the thing that holds the little metal wire, and that went through, came off. Oh, that was good. Come right out. That's nice. Those came out. There's still some more seams going through here, but I know that they're not going to be too difficult. And they do make aftermarket ones, so if by this point in the video you're saying, holy cow, that's way more work than I want to do, I don't know, you might try buying an aftermarket one and seeing if it all uses the same 12 volts. Maybe it's all the same, like high, low, medium, high setting, and maybe it's no big deal. I just didn't test that on mine. I didn't get to talk to any upholstery guys to see what they do. So this may be like way more work than it's worth, and maybe I'm doing it the hard way. But I do know those heating elements cost like, I don't know, 50 bucks each on the cheap side, and maybe a little more. So if you've got to buy 4 of those, you know, one for bottom, one for top, and then, you know, for both your seats, now it's kind of like, well, my $350 leather seats from L-Seat plus another $160 for the elements, maybe that's getting too much. So I chose to reuse what was working, plus I really like it. BMW seems to have a pretty good seat heater, and if you live in a cold climate, like I do, I don't know, it seems like it's worth it. And this becomes a total like unwieldy mess as you get to this point, because yeah, you got all these panels flapping around, and I'm not feeling like carefully surgically removing every part. So since I'm using a seam ripper just on the parts that I need to, and then scissors on the rest, it's just becoming a mess. So what I'm doing right now is just going back and finding every last stitch, and they have these little spot stitches here that are not part of the main ones. And that's what we're gonna do on the new seat. We're just gonna put little stitches here and there to hold it in place. There's no way I'm gonna re-sew this thing in the way they had it. There it is. All that work. Whoops. Okay, so what I can see if the camera can pick it up, is just where all those elements are in there. So I'm gonna take a Sharpie and I'm gonna mark the spots I really wanna be careful about, like right here. I need to cut a line here so that I can put hog rings through. And I need to cut a line here too. But I absolutely don't want to accidentally cut this fiber here, because I did on my other one, and then I spent like hours trying to solder it together. And it finally, I think I got it okay. So yeah, what I chose was just cut little gaps here where I'm gonna put the hog rings. And where you're gonna put the hog rings is where you see those rusty spots. Maybe yours won't be rusty, but you know, it's pretty clear where they need to go. So you can kind of line it up. The reason I kept these holes here and didn't cut through them is I want this to be able to rest here like that and not have to worry about this ever drooping down. I am gonna go test this. You can test it before you put it in your new one, because that'd be a ton of work just to find out that something's gotten damaged. All you do is just have a 12-volt source somewhere, and you just put 2 probes in there at 12 volts, and you'll feel this thing heat up real quick, because that's like full power basically. Since I don't know everything about this, I didn't leave it for very long, because I don't know if BMW has some limiter on it. All right, so the base here, there's this little bit of leather hooked on here. The other side had that plastic clip. This one is just a little nub that you hook the leather on. I don't know why. This is so ridiculously tight. So on the new one, it's a little loose, and I'll talk about that when I get to the step. But basically, I probably should be adding a little extra foam since I'm reusing my old padding, but I'm not. And then now I'm going to remove this flap all the way around here. And there's where all the spilled drinks go. What I found was different about my car than what some other videos I watched was that this is like glued down. The foam is glued down. So I was kind of nervous doing this, but ultimately you need to. You have to separate the foam from the metal here. And so since mine is glued down, I just worked my fingers in there and just kind of slowly peeled it away, trying to not run into a scenario where half the foam tears and sticks to the metal. And so it just doesn't feel good, but anyway, I just did it. You can see some of it got left behind there. Okay, so that's separate. And because I disconnected all those plugs earlier, it just pops right out. Same thing as the top. Just less of the hog rings to deal with. Same process though. Remove this monstrous seat. You know, it's funny, BMW puts so much effort into making everything plastic in the engine compartment to save on weight. But man, this car seat, I can't imagine is great on the track because it weighs a ton. I'm gonna go from, so look, this is hog ringed right here, which, shoot, I wish I had remembered that on my passenger seat because that explains why mine's a little loose right here. So I guess if I ever care enough, I'll go back and fix that. But make a note that there's a hog ring here and here, and it's like just going into the foam. It's not connected to any wire that I can tell. Just cut them off. Hey, that was the one. Okay. All right. So, like I said, this thing here is torn all the way out. I don't know how you would even venture to repair that. I don't know. I'm tempted to put like a spray foam or something, but that's probably a really dumb idea. Maybe I'll just leave it. This side seems to be okay. I don't want to mix these up with the upright seat. And then peel away. Man, that is some heavy duty thread. And it's so tempting to just reach for the scissors and start cutting. But I know the sadness that comes when I accidentally cut a wire. Wow, that was tough. All right, so I've kind of separated and obliterated this whole section here just so I can get a light back behind this thing. Okay, so I see some wires there. I know that there's wires that go through here because I've cut them before. If I stuff a wire, I still can't really see very well. So from memory, I kind of know that there's wires that go up here, and then I know there's a wire that goes up around here and loops back, and I've cut it before, and once you cut it, it's just gone. So, well darn. I was hoping I'd be able to see it. Okay. So you can see the wires go in, they go separate, cross over this line here, and then they go along the bolster side. That's right. I'm remembering this spot right here is like just a cluster of intense threads. I'm gonna try to get it from this side here. So what I did is I just worked the seam from this side till I got a hole there. I make a cut through here. Just trying to get this padding out of my way because it drives me crazy. I mean, it's good that it's there for your car, or good for your seat, but it's just in my way. Okay, not too bad. Finally getting there where things are just kind of starting to let go. All right, I believe I have ripped every seam, and there's still this stuff here, but now I can use the scissors. So the whole point of delicately doing that part was so that I could get some light in there, see what I'm doing, and mark things like this wire here. So this is the one that I cut before, because it comes out so close to the seam. I mean, geez, I can't even like get my scissors down. Maybe I can, but like that's where the wire comes out to. There's a bunch of wires here that I just got to be careful of. Right there. And there. Goes right there. Oh, please tell me I missed it. Oh, that was close. Yep, right there. Barely missed it. Cool. Okay, let's see how I did. Oh, okay, I came pretty close right there. Mess with this area here. Oops. There we go. Yeah, I would show you what this mesh looks like, but I don't want to cut into it and show you. But it's interesting stuff. Like, I don't know how it works. To me, having these wires that you can somehow sew through, like, and not damage them, it's kind of bizarre to me. Okay, so yeah, I left a little bit in the middle there to give it a little more structure. I don't think it matters. This on here, you have those metal bars, and then I have to somehow get the rings in here, and if you're fighting with fabric and this, it's a hassle. So since I can't do the lines here, I'll just fight through that, but at least here I can make my life a little bit easier to get those hog rings in. Right, here's what comes from the seat. The top of the seat, and it's got this nice padding already sewn in, which the heating element would normally be underneath this, and then that pad, which you saw me rip out, would be on here. So this would be awesome if I didn't have seat warmers and I just had to throw this on. This would have been like a super quick job, but it's not, because I gotta, well, you saw everything I just had to do, but now I have to attach it here and stitch it little by little in certain spots. You know, definitely not do the whole thing. This is the bottom, and it has that kind of hook shaped plastic that goes underneath the ridge. So anyway, all you have to do is you have to make a little cut in the plastic on here, and I'll show you that when we get to it, because otherwise there's just too much plastic in it. It can't flex around that shape, the metal shape on the seat. So that was the only modification I really had to make. Otherwise, I mean, they've thought of everything, even this little part that clips around the back of the seat. Pretty good. In case it wasn't obvious on their website, if you were going to buy a metal seat, it comes with the headrest ones too. I'm not going to use them because my headrest didn't get soaking wet. So see how I cut those sections out so that I can put the hog rings through here, and I have to put that metal bar through this piece of fabric. You can probably see it on the camera, but horizontal ones can't really go in yet because the way they sewed it, there's just no way to feed them in because the other stitch goes across it. So you have to make a little cut right here. So that you can feed that bar in, or starting to tack that down. Just coming back later to make that little incision would be hard. Cool. I've got this teeny little, travel sew kit that I've had since I was in high school, and a regular old needle. I'm sure they make those kind of curved ones that they use for sewing stitches. Don't have those. Doesn't matter what color thread I use because it's all going to be invisible.